2025 is coming to an end, and if we look back at this whole year, there is at least one thing that we can find very unique and it marks an important point. I will come to it in this video and talk about it in detail, but before that, there is a backdrop why it actually matters, and it is the public discourse in last one decade. We are all familiar with how polarized and how heated our arguments have been, be it in the classroom discussions or the dinner table conversations. People have actually lost friends for their narrow beliefs or sometimes their political opinions or even general opinions. And in this backdrop, we have had a debate which was very unlike the TV news debates, which are no longer the debates. It is just the voices in clash with one another, shouting at one another without any civil characteristics. This debate was moderated by a journalist, Saurabh Dwivedi, and if you have watched that whole video of the debate, you will be familiar with it. So it is the debate that everyone has been talking about, at least in the intellectual circles, and it is does God exist? Uh, the participants were Javed Akhtar, he needs no introduction, and Mufti Shamail Nadvi, who is also a very popular figure and an Islamic scholar. Now, the debate was, of course, between a believer and an atheist, and I think without going even into the question of who was more right or who was wrong, we can still learn a lot from this debate. This debate was not just between two personalities, it was between two epistemologies. On the one hand, we had Javed Akhtar Sahab, who was representing rational skepticism that is found in most of the atheist people, not all, of course. And on the other hand, we had Mufti Nadvi Sahab, who was representing theological certainty, and his point was, of course, that God really exists and this creation is created by a creator. And even when one of the persons from the audience in the question round asked that couldn't there be an idea that creation itself is the creator, Mufti Nadvi Sahab opposed that viewpoint like right away. If you have not watched that video of the debate, I think you should watch that before you continue with this video, because I don't feel like I should be repeating what they said in their debate, but I have to cite some examples to actually talk about what I want to. So there were few examples that were used by Javed Akhtar Sahab, like the example of dinosaur missing from the religious text, or children dying in Gaza, or believers failing to present any evidence that there is a God. And yet, there was one point where Mufti Nadvi Sahab was able to dominate the debate, and it was the question who decides the morality. When Javed Sahab said that it is decided by a society or by the people of planet, majority of the people of the planet, so Mufti Sahab cited example of Hitler. He was chosen by majority of his country. The purpose of making this video is not even to judge who actually won the debate, because why is there a need to judge that? Everyone is entitled to their viewpoints, and I believe no one actually changes their viewpoint after just watching one debate. If someone does, good for them. And at least in 2025, no one is so uninformed of their ideas that they would need one debate to change their whole perspective. So it is not that. But the debate in itself is very important, because you see one person representing his viewpoints without contradictions. There is methodologically consistency in his viewpoints. There is other person who is arguing on the basis of traditional reasoning, and there is an end to that reasoning also, because you have to believe that when you reach that end. And it was in this case Mufti Nadvi Sahab's argument that universe cannot be by itself. there must be an entity that created this universe, and even the ideas of time and space are created by that entity. So that entity is beyond time, that entity is beyond space, that entity is omnipresent and all deciding. But if we go beyond this, the debate by itself was more important than the outcome of the debate. This debate has been so long in history. There have been so many people who have been persecuted for just saying that God does not really exist, and there are also many people who have been killed despite being religious just because their religion was not the religion that was accepted by the majority in that area, in that state, or in that country. The questions of objective morality are not really new, but at least we have come so far that it can be debated in a public sphere. And I'm glad that it happened in India. And despite so much of polarization that we see in the political discourse and even in social life, people are still able to exchange their viewpoints. An atheist and a religious scholar can come together on a stage and debate on what they believe in, and yet be civilized in their behavior. So unlike the social media trolling or threads that come just for one tweet or one post on Instagram or Facebook, the question of objective morality remained unresolved in the debate. So, Nadvi Sahab could not answer why there was evil in the world when there is God. And Javed Sahab could not counter it well when Nadvi Sahab asked who decides good and bad if there is no God. But I believe that there is always an answer to that question, and more particularly in our times, because the modern polities have something called constitutions, and specifically the countries that have their constitutions based in democratic values. And if the constitution is democratic enough, there must be an inherent constitutional morality that must be followed in that society for constitution to succeed. And it can ensure justice, it can ensure equality, it can ensure dignity of human beings, it can prevent a lot of crime also, and there is already a recompense in the form of legal punishment for crimes. So Nadvi Sahab's viewpoint was quite outdated, that who will punish those who do wrong. Now, my viewpoint may not be a sufficient explanation in itself, but I think there are still a few questions that need to follow this debate. And one such question is of the group identities that are created on the basis of these very ideas. So, you believe in one God and you organize a religion around that God's ideas or the revealed knowledge, and then people who refuse to believe in that God or revealed knowledge, and they continue to believe in their God or gods for that matter, you start persecuting them. How is that justified? Or when you come up with something like free will idea to justify what is happening in all over the world, and the crime that is happening against women, against children, against all vulnerable groups, be it queer communities or anyone. And on that notion, the answer that comes from the traditional reasoning is the free will of human beings. It is humans who choose to do the evil, not the God or the creator. And then we are back to the square one, that if there is God, why does not he stop humans from their free will reaching a point of evilness? And even if there is a recompense to that offense, it comes much later. We do not even survive to see that recompense. While the legal justice is delivered in our lifetime, even if it is delayed, I can think of a number of ways to answer these questions that were asked in the debate. And we can have also many questions that were not asked in the debate, but we want them to be asked, to be discussed. And when we don't have public fora or public discourse around these topics, it becomes quite difficult to actually let out your ideas also. So, in that one aspect, at least, this debate was a fresh change and quite unique that it could be done on a public stage. And I believe there should be more debates on these themes. It not only informs our viewpoints, it also challenges the dogmas. And there is also a necessity to link the present generations with the questions of past century or centuries that remain unresolved. And even in present times, there is so much of social media that can be done, that can be talked about, but our viewpoints now are being informed at platforms where the information is just being amplified rather than being understood. And these public debates could act as the platforms for, making that understanding more accessible to those who remain out of it. Regardless of how convincing the arguments in the debate are, it is more important to watch the video to know how a civilized debate should look like. All of us see people fighting over their ideas or their arguments, and then we have seen how those who do not agree are antagonized. If someone younger comes up with more logical statement or an argument, they are shooed away. Oh, you don't know anything, or hame sikhaoge. And then if someone who is not academically very smart, their arguments are, brushed off. Oh, who are you to say that? But then, can ideas be limited to certain qualifications? Can a person who has never entered a university circle or who is not a qualified intellectual not argue on something that is logical? At the end, it is exchange of ideas that is more important. Being able to express yourself and also being able to be heard. I think both the aspects of communication, discourse are important. And I end my video on this note. But also, if you have watched this video this far, and if you have watched the video on Does God Exist, just let me know in my comment sections. What were your takeaway from that video and my video?